Hi friends, this is Caitlin. Welcome back to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel. Today we're going to be combining the Spellbinders Rain or Shine dies with the Raindrops 3D embossing folder to create a super sweet encouragement card. So I started out with a side folding A2 size card base, and I'm going to start making my card base first, and then we'll add all of our embellishments on top. And this is actually going to be a shaker card. So I used a piece of dark gray cardstock, and look at that amazing 3D embossing. The texture that this folder gives is just absolutely amazing. So I trimmed down my panel to be 3 3/4 of an inch by 5 inches. So I'm just shaving off a little from all 4 sides. And like I said, this is going to be a shaker card. So I am repurposing some of the packaging that my embossing folder came in. I'm just going to trim off the flap and then pull the 2 sides apart down one of the seams. This is pretty easy. This is my favorite way to make a shaker. I really like the flexibility of using packaging, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something good for the world by repurposing some plastic. So if you have acetate or something else that you prefer to use, by all means go for it, but this is my favorite way. So I'm just going to trim down my packaging so that I have a nice little border all the way around to fold over. And I'm bringing in some of the Pink Fresh Ocean Breeze jewels. These are so beautiful. I spent a good bit of time trying to flip all of these over, and then when I placed my emboss panel on top, I pushed down too hard and it kind of popped some of them, and they ended up flipping back over. So you decide how much time you want to take with that. I really don't think the ones that are flipped over look bad at all. I kind of like having the combination, but you do whatever makes you happy. So I added some of my Tombow permanent dot adhesive to all 4 sides of the back of my gray panel, and I'm just one by one folding my sides of my packaging over, laying them down really nicely, pressing them into place. And then I will go in with my scissors to trim off the extra packaging at the corners. This just helps to make sure that your panel sits really nice and flat on your card base. So the first time that I made this card, I actually did a gray card base with this gray shaker panel, and it really kind of brought down the whole card and made it too dark and moody where I wanted this to be an uplifting encouragement card. So lucky for me, my camera had a glitch and I lost some of my footage. So I just decided, since I wasn't loving how the color combination was working anyway, I would just completely refilm, and I am so in love with how this one turned out and that this is the card that I get to share with you today. So sometimes things really do happen for a reason. Now I added some more of that Tombow dot adhesive as well as some liquid glue just to make sure that this panel really stays in place, and attached my shaker panel to my card. I love the kind of true rain effect that the little bumps from the raindrops give, with not letting all of the shaker bits move really easily. It definitely has like a rainmaker kind of thing going on. It shakes differently. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense versus seeing it in person, but it definitely shakes differently, and I'm absolutely loving it. So I went in with my Rain or Shine dies now, and I'm laying out all of the pieces for the umbrella as well as the top sections that you can add in. This die set is super fun because you can do polka dots, you can do stripes, you can do solid color accents on your umbrella. It really gives you a lot of customization options, which I think is just so fun and just lets you really feel free to play. So I did kind of the stripes, the little smaller sections, and that's what we're going to be adding to the top of our umbrella, as well as the sun. And I'm going to end up cutting 3 or 4, I think 4 of the clouds, my stormy clouds, to layer everything up. So I am using some of this Spellbinders tape just to hold this all in place while I run it through my die cutting machine. And once I have everything out, I'm going to reuse that same tape on the back of my paper so that I can kind of puzzle piece all of my little paper bits here back into this paper. to help hold everything in place and keep everything nice and safe while I do my Copic coloring. It was actually really fun to pop all of these little pieces back into place. I don't know about you, but I love puzzles. My family and I just completed a big, crazy puzzle over the holidays, and this definitely gave me those very satisfying puzzle feelings. So once everything was tucked back in nice and safely, I did pull out my Copic markers. I did my storm clouds all exactly the same, going in with the N6 first, just to start creating that really dark, stormy feeling, mostly focusing my coloring on the bottom of the clouds, and then blending that out with the N4, just kind of starting to connect that lower portion all together. Then I brought in my N2 just to help blend everything out. And at first I left a little bit of a gap at the bottom, almost like a little frame, just to create that rounded feeling. So I went in to make sure that none of that was left completely white. The last color that I had pulled in there was that N0, just to blend everything out nice and smooth. Then I went in and colored my sun. I used my orange shades. Nope, I used my yellow shades that I'm going to be using again on the umbrella for the center part of my sun, and the orange colors for the outer rim of the sun. I did 2 color blends for all of the rainbow colors that I used for this card, just to keep it nice and simple, and because especially on the umbrella top, the space I had was very limited. So I use my same neutral gray markers to also shade in the base of my umbrella, creating a really nice shadow where that smaller umbrella section is going to lay over the top. So you kind of seeing the inside underneath part of the umbrella, and then also adding just some gentle shading to that outer part because it's going to get mostly covered up with those fun colors in a little bit anyway. I also did the same color scheme for the handle of my umbrella, and I'm going to go in with the black 100 just to shade in the upper knob and the bottom handle part. So instead of red, I decided to go for pink to start my rainbow. I just really wanted a bright, kind of summery, citrusy feeling rainbow. So I did that one little slice pink, then I went in with my orange, my yellows, and you can see I'm keeping all of my colors over on the side there so you can see the whole kind of color story together. They definitely have that really fresh and vibrant feel versus a more traditional rainbow kind of color. But I think that really helps to balance out all of those neutral grays and really bring a lot of life to the card. So I went in all the way down to purple, and I used the same markers to shade in my sentiment, which we'll get to shortly. But to start assembling my umbrella, I just laid some of the Lawn Fawn liquid glue over that very shadowy part of that umbrella, put the top into place, and then while the glue was still wet, I just kind of slid the handle of the umbrella in between those 2 layers and sandwiched it in. Then I added the little knob at the top and my handle onto the umbrella. I definitely cut out some of my fiddling here. Just definitely take your time, use tweezers if you need to, but I really felt like this wasn't too hard to put together. And just being careful and kind of taking my time was definitely worth the investment because this just turned out so absolutely adorable. So these little pieces are definitely small. If you have an embellishment wand or tweezers, they would definitely come in handy. I was determined to just kind of make it work in this moment and not have to bring in anything else. So I put my little pink and orange into one side, leaving a tiny little sliver of that gray in between them to really help push that striped feel, and then repeated the process with the purple and the blue. I thought it was easier to place the outer color first and then the inner color just for spacing reasons. So for my sentiment, I decided to bring in the Lawn Fawn Henry's ABCs dies, and I cut them from white cardstock and went in with those same rainbow shades and just did some stippling dot kind of motions at the bottom, almost to give them a dip dyed or puddle feeling with that color. And I'm going to lay these down across the bottom just using that same Tombow permanent dot adhesive, and the sentiment is going to say chin up. I just really like how clean and simple the sentiment is, and really lets the umbrella and the storm clouds and everything kind of stand out against the shaker element that we created. And I just thought it was so much fun. And I always like to put, for something like this, my last letter in first when I'm doing two words like that, so that way I can make sure that everything is evenly spaced, and that way you're not putting the U in the up too close to the N. So then I started laying out where everything was going to go. I am going to have two clouds up at the top with my sun, and then one cloud kind of supporting around the umbrella, just to make sure everything was balanced. And I am going to let these hang over the edge of our shaker towards the kind of cutting over the frame onto the card base. I like to lay my stuff into my pieces into place, and then add and adhere down the underlayers just by kind of tucking them underneath. So that way I know that I'm putting things in generally the right position. And then from there, we kind of just let it go, and whatever happens, happens. At that point, we did our due diligence. So I'm going to go in and do the same process with the sun, kind of holding my clouds in place with just my fingers, tucking the sun, and then adhering everything right in on top and around it. I just absolutely love how fun and cheerful this card is, while also acknowledging that there are storms and there is rain, but without those things you can't get a rainbow. So it's just got to keep your chin up and keep on pushing. And these are the kinds of cards that I think are great to have in your stash, ready to go for anyone in your family or friends or inner circle that might need an extra little reminder that they're awesome. So thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. Make sure that you are subscribed to the ScrapbookPal channel so you don't miss any more of these amazing, super fun projects. And yeah, just thank you for being here. I hope you have an amazing week. Happy crafting.